Welcome to BizWack. Brought to you by Hugh Hamilton Leadership Group. Featuring Luke Zacharias from Zacharias Vickers McCann. Hello, welcome to BizWack. I'm Hugh Hamilton. This is my co-host, Garrah. With us today is Luke Zacharias. How you doing, Luke?
I'm well. How are you guys doing?
Good. Thanks a lot for coming in.
Happy to be here.
Nice. He's got a perfect radio voice.
Yeah, you do.
I got the face for radio.
I was saving. I was saving that for the podcast. Yeah,
Right.
we were chatting up lots here beforehand, but yeah, that's a nice thunderous deep voice.
All right, I'll be sure to keep it going.
So tell us about Zacharias Vickers McCann.
Yeah, we're a law firm in British Columbia now, and then we have to do some work in Alberta as well. We started about just almost 5 years ago. I was at another major law firm in the area and left and started my own thing. And so we're a full service firm. I think we have about 15 or so lawyers and about 50 employees and 4 locations right now. So it's been a rapid pace of growth. I think I left with 11 people and we've gone to 50 people in 4.5 years.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
Where are your 4 locations?
Chilliwack, Abbotsford, Vancouver, and Victoria.
Right.
And looking at expanding more in the future.
Always.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, never stop.
And then what made you decide to open your own practice?
I've always had kind of an entrepreneurial spirit, and I also just love challenges, and so kind of the challenge of doing my own thing. And another part that's really important to me is, I grew up I didn't grow up. My whole professional life has been in law firms, and I found law firm cultures to be generally quite difficult. And all my friends in law school said the same thing. And I had a vision to create a law firm with a great culture, and so. I had that vision, and it's something that I'm really passionate about, and I kind of wanted to make my own mark in the law world. So
Nice.
That was really the foundation of it.
So a couple things you said there. What makes the environment difficult? Is it like Suits, like all the egos?
I was waiting to drop Suits. He dropped it already. Oh, man.
Suits is probably one of the best law shows I've ever watched, because what they really do is obviously it's exaggerated, but they really capture the types of personalities in a law firm and the dynamics between the varying types of personalities and the hierarchies and different levels of lawyers and staff and all those things. And there's often kind of a queen bee paralegal like Donna and different egos, her types of personalities in terms of lawyers. It definitely captures that law firm dynamic. Cool. Obviously exaggerated, but it's all those. I've seen every one of those personalities in a law firm.
Are you Harvey? Harvey vibe?
Maybe, yeah. I'm a trial lawyer,
totally
so
Harvey.
I do lots of big deals. So definitely.
So that's what makes it difficult, those personalities in one environment.
And that's part of it. And I also think that there's a very, it's a high intensity environment. Like you're dealing with people's really big problems, whether they be personal problems or business problems or a mix of both. And that is very intense, and you want to perform and create good results for people. And like in what I do, it's very adversarial, like you're fighting. And I was in court once with a judge, and one of the lawyers wasn't prepared, and I was just waiting for my matter. And at the end, the judge said, this is what we do instead of in medieval times. You got a knight and you killed people. And this is civil litigation. We're fighting civilly. You weren't ready. In medieval times, you'd be dead. And it's the idea of it is very adversarial. You're fighting really hard. And so some of the personalities that are attracted to that are more difficult personalities, right? And so I have a saying we're outwardly aggressive, but not inwardly aggressive. And it's take care of each other, right?
I like that. Sticking on the personalities, for you hiring someone, you're looking to hire a certain personality. I just want to elaborate on that a little bit.
So we have 4 core values: care, competence, commitment, and collaboration. And so we hire through our values. And so number 1 is caring. And caring means a lot. It's about caring about our clients, our community, each other. And so we're looking for, I read this article by the guy that started the 4 Seasons, and he said, you give me someone who has a great personality, I can teach them skills. If they don't like people, I can't change that. And you walk into a Four Seasons and you feel that. You feel like, hey, this is a good place to be. People like being here. You feel that energy, and that's so that the care piece is what I'm very much looking for. But we still want to be really great lawyers. So the competence, and we're not going to just because we care. We're not mamby-pamby, and you're going to lose, but we're nice people, right? And and then the commitment is it's hard work, and we're committed to that level of hard work to get great results for people. And then collaboration, we work as teams. And so, looking for lots of people that are good working in a team environment.
Wow, I like that. It's got me fired up.
Yeah, all right.
And so those values of yours,
yeah.
Like I'm not sure your hiring process, but when you interview people, those questions are going to be based to reflect if they have your values or share your values?
Yeah, so we always are looking for that. We're talking about it. I talk about our core values in every single interview. I look for on their resume, like, has this person volunteered, or have they done things in the community, or there are lots of things that I look for. I find the interview process to be difficult. A lot of times you hire someone and then you kind of see how they go once they get in there. Because, I feel like interviewing is like a first date. No one tells you they fart in bed on the first date.
But they do fart in bed, don't they?
I'm going to get a strange look from my wife when she watches this podcast.
But yeah, so I mean, we are screening for it, but you never know what you're going to get, and so, but we've had some real success on it. And the other part I think is as you build momentum, reputation, and people start approaching you who have those values, and like attracts like too, right? And so I've found as we've got the ball rolling on this, more and more people who have those values will reach out to us as well.
So in your previous job, like you're building culture, obviously.
Yeah.
In your previous job, you wanted to start your practice. Like, when did you start thinking about starting your own practice and bringing your own culture?
Yeah. So I've been a lawyer now for just over 20 years. And so, so the law game is the first kind of 5 to 10 years is really, really hard. The learning curve is massive. And so just building your skill set is really, really the focus at the beginning. And just the amount of knowledge you need to be an effective lawyer is very, very high. So the first kind of 5 to 10 years is skill development. And then you work into business development and, building your practice. And then there's a whole bunch of things. So it was kind of once I got past that initial really skill development, got to be a really good lawyer. And then it's like, okay, now maybe it's time I start my own thing and advance this vision I have.
What about a mentor? Did you have you must have had some good mentors along the way. Is there anyone shout out?
Yeah, I had incredible mentors through the whole process. People that really believed in me and invested in me and taught me. And I really like one of my people, my mentees, I like analogies and stories. And so I said, being a great lawyer is climbing Mount Everest, and you need a Sherpa, and otherwise you're going to die. And and not die, your career just won't advance. Obviously, you might be stuck at base camp 2 for your whole career, and that's where you're at. And to get to the very top of the mountain, you need that guide. And so Jim Baker was one of my big mentors, and he's considered one of the best trial lawyers in BC history. He's in the BC Trial Lawyers Hall of Fame, and there's only 6 lawyers in BC history in that Hall of Fame. And he did over 1,000 trials, and so he was an incredible mentor. There's a mentor in Vancouver. I started out at a firm in Vancouver, Michael Giannakopoulos. He thought I was Greek because of my name. Yeah. So he just took a liking to me, even though I'm not Greek. And we did a lot of work together. John Lee was another serious mentor for me. So some, older guys who'd really had a lot of success in the law game and helped me out a lot.
That's great.
What are some big challenges you've faced in starting your own practice, and what has stuck with you even today that you learned from that?
Yeah, starting something new there's always like this initial getting the ball rolling. It's that inertia and pushing, and it's just a lot of pushing on a lot of fronts. And then you become, I left a firm where we had office administrators and all kinds of administrative staff that would do things, and all of a sudden, like, we're putting furniture together, right, to get ready and moving boxes, and so there's that initial energy that you need to move to push it forward. But I love that kind of stuff. So, but it was a big push on all kinds of fronts that I didn't necessarily do in the past. And then probably one of my biggest challenges was finding a good accounting person who could understand, who has experience in law, because it's a specific type of accounting, like trust accounting. And those are the things where I know nothing about accounting, and you mess up one of those things, you can get disbarred. So it's like, can be really scary if you don't have a good accounting person to support you. So yeah, those are some of the big challenges. I'd already established a reputation in both as a lawyer and in the community. So that helped me a lot in terms of building a business here and building a brand. So I'd put years and years of effort and work into doing that. And so that really paid off big time in terms of starting my own practice.
Mm-hmm. Who's your accountant?
Well, our controller is Jen Middleton, so she does our like day-to-day books, and so that and all the trust accounting. Like we have obviously an outside accountant to do the books, but yeah, Jeff Hunt at Manning Elliott was my accountant, but he's just kind of retired. But I'm still at Manning Elliott.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you have 50 employees.
Yeah.
You've built this culture. How do you take care of your employees? If they were sitting here today, what would they say about you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I can tell you what I'd hope they'd say about me.
Sure. Let's start there.
Yeah. I mean, I think the fundamental lens is like treat them how I want to be treated. And so, it can be from my kid's sick. Can I get a couple hours off to go deal with that? Absolutely. There's little things like that, but big things. It's like driving. We have lots of firm events. We have lots of appreciation. We have lots of things like that. But it's, also being at the top of the culture, I maintain certain behavior expectations. I never, my office manager, who started as my legal assistant, became my paralegal and now is our HR IT manager. She's, worked for me for 12 years. And she said, Luke's never yelled at me. Well, yelling at staff is very common in law firms. So it's like, We're not having any of that behavior. And I set the tone on that. I set the standard. You're not treating your staff. It's not even yelling. It's not treating them poorly. They're no different than you, and just because you're a lawyer doesn't make you a better person, right? And it's seeing people as equals and treating them as equals and with respect. And those types of basic behaviors often don't happen in law firms and really harm the culture because people don't feel appreciated.
It seems like exactly what you're talking about. If I just echo that seems very important in your office, in your line of work, and that's what it's all about, is respect and honor.
Absolutely.
And like you say, you leave the yelling for the courtroom, right?
Yeah.
Do you yell at your coworkers, Tyler?
In like super positive manners. Yeah, like I'll yell at coaching stuff. I'm a big sports guy. I do lots of coaching. Yeah, I do yell at them, but never have I raised my voice in disrespect or in anger. But yelling, I'm a big yeller. I yell a lot.
Yeah. Well, everyone's got it's treating people poorly. That's the bottom line in terms of what I want to avoid and making sure we're not doing that.
Yeah, you said treating people how they would want to be treated, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what's your specialty?
So I'm a civil litigator, so that means I fight generally about money. So that's either in either the context of a personal injury case or in the context of a business dispute, property dispute. Sure, it could be like, the fight over a property or a shareholder dispute between company owners or any permutation of that. So I don't, in terms of the civil litigation, I don't do family law, but I've done most other things.
Is that a preference? You don't do family law?
Yeah, people come to you in pretty tough spots emotionally in family law, and it can be very emotional. Like litigation is already really hard, and family law is particularly challenging. And there's great family lawyers. It's just it wasn't for me.
Right.
So
that's really, really good that you could acknowledge that about because you're in a very passionate line of work, and I applaud you.
That'd be tough in Chilliwack too, because sometimes both both partners.
Yeah. I had one of my mentors did family law, and he said, I go out for dinner, and half the restaurant hates me, and half the restaurant loves me. So you have to have a pretty thick skin, right?
So I know someone who Luke represented, and he said he was an awesome lawyer, a super nice guy, but when he gets in court, he has this other persona. Is that true? Can you tell us anything about that?
Absolutely. Definitely. I mean, to be a great litigator, you have to have a killer instinct, and you have to be able to, win. Bottom line, and it's very, as I said, adversarial and intense, and but I love that. I love that. But for me, it's a really I have nothing personal against the other lawyer. It's a competition of ideas, and I am presenting an argument that I think is better than your argument, and there's nothing personal about that. I'm going to fight really hard, but I still want to maintain a good relationship with the other lawyer. So no, it's kind of, I've always had this kind of intellectual intensity, and I love ideas. I've always loved ideas, and I loved in philosophy and political science in university and just talking about ideas a lot. And so yeah, no, I just love ideas, and I love, to make arguments and be successful. So, and there's a real skill set to certain aspects of it. Like, for instance, like you see in suits, cross-examining someone, that's a really difficult skill to master, and specifically like cross-examining experts. So you can cross-examine a layperson. It's not nearly as hard, but an expert, you're like, I've cross-examined lots of doctors and engineers and economists, and you're going to fight in their specialty. So there's just a huge knowledge that you need to develop in order to be effective at cross-examining an expert. And so there's things like that I just love challenges. That's right. What it boils down to, I think.
And is there...
No, I just wanted to stay, in the courtroom.
Yeah.
Like, is there a time where you're dealing with a certain judge or a certain lawyer that you're going up against that you just have this confidence that I'm going to win because maybe it's not better, but you're just like, I'm going to win. Like, I know that I'm going to put together a better case, and I'll say it again, win.
Yeah, I mean, judges, there's like when you're often in a courtroom, judges will make comments. Not all do, but a lot do, and you get a sense of which way they want you to go or what their issues are or what you need to address. So I definitely have a very strong instinct for that. For instance, I was at the Court of Appeal on a case in December. So that's 3 judges. There's no witnesses, and you presented a 30-page argument before you get there, and both sides have, and then you just get grilled by 3 judges who are all senior judges. And I'm watching everything from like their facial expressions, their body language, to every argument I make. I'm so attuned to those things. So I'm making sure that I'm being responsive to what I think they want to hear and what they want me to address in my arguments. In other lawyers, like one of the things that like within civil litigation, I've heard estimates anywhere from 10 to 20% of civil litigators actually go to trial at all, period. And so that does set me apart. I've done, for a civil litigator of my age, I've done more trials than almost anyone in the province. So
good for you.
I've done over 50 trials and jury trials and been to the Court of Appeal a ton. And so there'd be other people in that category, but it's tiny percentage. And so that really is a difference. It's just that experience. A courtroom is immensely complex in terms of the rules, the customs. There's a rule book that's as big as the Bible. And then in that, like I remember I would read it and I'd go to court and like, well, that rule's important. That one's kind of important sometimes, and that one's not important at all. And you have no idea. And then there's all these things that happen that aren't ever written down anywhere, and you have to like figure that out by practice.
I know I want to stay in the courtroom. Sorry,
sure.
I know we're going to stay on cue here, but I just want to talk about courtroom etiquette.
Yeah.
That's a real big thing.
Absolutely.
I just quickly want to line up that there was this gentleman that was fighting a parking ticket.
Yeah.
And he came in and he acknowledged the fact that he had to acknowledge the judge when he came in. Like, it's like, I'm coming in. How are you? There's another court case going on. Can you just talk a little bit about etiquette inside the courtroom? Because that's something that if you're not there or don't know.
Was this story about you fighting?
No, it wasn't. It was a guy. And he was very on top of the point and he even had to go to the bathroom. You have to get up and like acknowledge the judge that you just hit on that just for, I just wanted to stay in the courtroom here just for a little bit.
Yeah. So we come from the English common law tradition, which is a very rich tradition that started almost 1,000 years ago with the Magna Carta. And so these customs have developed, and we have all of the similar customs we wear the exact same robes as they do in England when we go to trial, exactly the same. The judges wear the same ones. And so, for instance, the robes are all the same because they don't want a perception that your lawyer is wealthier, so the judge might rule in your favor. Wow. So it's equality. And on the robes, they have this strap that goes back behind you, and it has a pocket in it. And this is in ancient times, a lawyer should never be seen to take money. So they would actually, you as the client, you would put it on, it'd be on their back, and you just come and put the money in the pocket so that they're not ever perceived to be, skewing justice for money or anything like that. And that's obviously not how it works now, but you were required to call the other lawyer your friend, my friend or my learned friend.
Wow,
So that's
okay.
you don't refer to them any other way. The judges are referred to in a specific way, Mr. Justice or Madam Justice, and even like referring to witnesses, that should always be formal, Mr. or Mrs. Never by first name, is a very, very formal environment. And there's many, many rules beyond that, but those are certainly some. When you come in, you cross the bar, you're supposed to bow to the judge, even on a break, or when the judge walks in, everyone stands and bow. The judge bows, and then we all bow back. And same when they leave. There's all kinds of rules like that exist in a courtroom.
Thank you. That's great. I like how you went back to the history as well too.
Yeah.
And then, sticking in the courtroom.
Yeah.
So you've obviously got a high level EQ, obviously, which helps you.
I hope so. Yeah.
And then, you're able to read those situations.
Yeah.
But what else? Is it your preparation that gives you confidence, or your killer instinct? Because I imagine, just putting myself in your shoes, I'd be so intimidated.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The preparation is absolutely critical. And so that's one thing when you learn as a young lawyer, well, you've never been in the courtroom or barely at all. So preparation is everything. And I was mentored by a judge, and he told me about how important it was to him that counsel was prepared, and that when you're prepared, what you're telling the court is, I'm taking this really seriously. I'm ready, and I'm going to try and make your job easier. And that's what judges want.
Right.
So this judge also told me, like, great lawyers, they distill the evidence and they determine, most cases are about one or two issues that we actually disagree about. There can be like thousands of documents and all kinds of evidence. Most times there's a very small number of issues, and it's the really good lawyers distill those issues, give their arguments in a very forceful manner, and then sit down and they're confident. The bad lawyers say, Judge, there's 100 issues. They throw everything at the wall, and then the judge is left to figure out what the actual issues are.
Right.
And the judge is like, you're being lazy and you're not making my job easy at all. And so so there's all kinds of things like that go into the strategy of being a good lawyer. So distilling the evidence, putting together a good argument that you think is successful, looking for precedent cases that are going to help you. And every case obviously is different in terms of, what. So sometimes it's really on the facts. There's a real disagreement between the parties about what happened. Sometimes it's really about the law. There's two lines of authorities on a case, or sometimes it's about both. And so it's taking a complex problem and creating a legal outcome that benefits the client in the most practical, cost-effective way possible. That's what I'm trying to achieve.
If I ever need a lawyer, I'm going to hire him.
It's not the words from my mouth. I'm getting fired up over here. Yeah.
Can you share one big win? Like one good story that maybe Tyler and I can make a movie about one day?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Let's see. So I had a case. I like this case a lot. So my client, this is all public record, so I can say this. Ed Godbout was my client. He was a truck driver, and he was coming back with a load of steel. I think it was from Vernon, and he was on Highway number 1 near Prest Road, and or just before Prest, I believe. And so, unbeknownst to him, a black car had I think the driver had fallen asleep. We never for sure found out what happened, but had crashed into the median, and all their lights were off. And then and so their car was halfway in the median, halfway into the fast lane. Yeah, and so totally dark. There's no ambient lighting there. There's no street lighting, and so my client then someone comes along, a witness, and in the last second he said he was in the fast lane, and what he said in his evidence was that he swerved to avoid the car the last second, and his car actually went up on two wheels. He swerved so hard, but then he stopped and backed down the shoulder and tried to help figure out if the people were there, and then so
he missed the car.
Sorry?
He missed the car?
He just
on two wheels.
Yeah. It's fairly dramatic testimony. So then he backs up down the shoulder and gets out and says, hey, guys, get out of the median, come over here. And so my client's driving his semi down. He sees this car with his flashers on the shoulder. So what does he do? He moves into the fast lane.
Yes.
And he never sees the black car ever. And he hits it in a semi-truck at 100 kilometers an hour. It shears off the front wheel of the semi-truck. The engine and the car were like 300 yards apart. the whole load of steel dumps onto the oncoming lane. The semi rolls over, and his 10-year-old son was in the semi truck with him, and so he was very, very traumatized by that and had PTSD, and so the case was about a whole bunch of issues. First, they just said he was 100% at fault, which we got engineering evidence and said this car wasn't visible, and we won that point completely. The ICBC took an extremely hard line, offered $0 right to the eve of trial, where they offered $100,000. Most lawyers wouldn't take it. He'd been to tons of lawyers. They're like, there's too many issues. We can't win. And I'm like, no, we can do something with this. And then they said he was a worker, and there's a bar if both parties are workers, but I figured out the other party wasn't a worker. We couldn't find out who that other driver was for a while. There's all these issues. And then they just said, then their expert, who was a psychiatrist, who had been the head psychiatrist for the Canadian military his whole career, and all he did was PTSD. Wow. And he said our client didn't have PTSD. And this doctor had met many trials, had never not been accepted by the judge ever. And so our doctor said he did have PTSD and that one didn't. And that was one of my early cross-examinations where I was very successful. And eventually at the end of his cross-examination, he said my client did have PTSD. He completely reversed his written report and his opinion. And I think we got somewhere close to $600,000 on the case. So, it was very rewarding and very to help someone like that whose life had really been turned upside down because he was, really struggled after the accident with the PTSD symptoms, which can be quite serious.
No doubt, especially when there's a youngster involved as well. Too.
I think a lot of it turned on that.
That's
fear.
Amazing that he. Changed his whole aspect of diagnosing PTSD. That's pretty amazing. And when you hold like a high title of being a psychiatrist for the Canadian military, to how long ago was that?
That trial, I think, was 2017 or 2018.
I'd like to see in action. So the case was in Chilliwack?
Yep. There was another case. This was quite dramatic. So it was, again, I was crossing a psychiatrist, cross-examining one who was the head of psychiatry at Royal Columbian Hospital. And he said our client didn't have depression or anxiety or anything. And so
why would they say that though?
Well,
they don't want to pay.
They're being paid by ICBC to write a report. And I have a psychiatrist that I'm paying, and he or she will write a report, but you want them to stay within the evidence, right? There's a gray zone, but you can be way out of that too, right? And just be wrong. And so there were about 20 people from our firm showed up, and the other lawyer was from downtown Vancouver, and she turned around and said, "Why are you all here? Cross-examination of experts are boring. Nothing ever happens." And there was a moment where I was cross-examining this expert, and it was one of those Perry Mason moments where it was like I had him pinned down so badly. He just looked at me and he couldn't speak for about 45 seconds. And then at the end, he was like, what was the question? And in the judgment, my doctor had seen it, and my psychiatrist, who had testified for me, said he's going to have PTSD from that cross-examination. But in the judgment, the judge said, I disregard everything in his report. Your client does have depression. She does have anxiety. She does have somatic symptom disorder. And what he said was not true. And so to get those types of results is very hard. Very few lawyers are able to, I call it flip an expert and get them to really say something. Or either sometimes they won't admit it. He didn't and never admitted it, but the judge made a finding that what he's saying wasn't true.
Wow, you're 20. Go ahead. You put the cherry on the top.
What a success. So, like, how do you celebrate that success? Like, I'm thinking of sports and fired up, but this is much more important.
With all 20 of the people didn't work with them, they caved.
At the end of that, there was a break, and then you could hear a pin drop. It was just absolute silence in the courtroom, and that's when I know I've done a really good job.
You had him in the chair.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So one thing I realized, I had this huge goal to get a judgment for over $1 million, not a settlement, but an actual court judgment. And that's lots of lawyers never accomplish that in their whole career. And so I achieved that somewhere 5 or 6 years ago in that case, actually, the one where I cross-examined that psychiatrist from Royal Columbian Hospital. And so I achieved that outcome, and I remember that it took me 15 years as a lawyer, and I remember I was really happy for about a day and a half, and then it kind of faded. And what I realized, the way I'm wired, I just love the challenge. I was just looking for the next challenge, and that's even coming back to building my own business. I just love challenges, and the real thrill for me is the fight and the grind to get to the end, and then I'm just looking for what's next. But there's other things I do like to do to celebrate, but that's my real joy comes from overcoming challenges.
Yeah. Nice. And then I made some notes here for Tyler, and if you can see on camera, it's like half a page of your community involvement.
Yeah.
So, where does that motivation come from? Why is it important to you, and why should it be important to other businesses?
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, I had great parents, but we didn't have a lot financially at that time when I was growing up. And I realized, I feel like I'm very, very blessed, very fortunate in terms of, what I've been able to accomplish. And it's really important to me to give back. One of my best friends talked about, how do you live your life? And he read this book, and it said, go to your funeral and either listen to your eulogy or give your own eulogy in your mind, and then work backwards from that. What do you want people to say about you at the end? And then live your life that way. And so this is care is the number one value in our law firm. It's one of my number one values personally. So it's really take care of people, and people that are vulnerable in particular is really appealing to me. And so do lots of stuff for kids charities and stuff like that. But yeah, that's the genesis of it.
I want to highlight a couple of these, and this is great. Board member of the Chilliwack Community Service, started in 2010. Then by 2012, president of Chilliwack Community Service, also board member of the Mount Shem Rotary, and then that was in 2015, and then president-elect in 2016. So your ability to come into these organizations, establish yourself, and then sit at the top spot of the table, that speaks a lot for your character. And this is all volunteer, and this is Rotary and Chilliwack Community Services, everything. That's good for you. That's amazing. Just to look at the numbers and see he entered and then became president. Is that something you shoot for as well too? Because you kind of seem like an all-in guy, right?
Well,
you're going to go for it.
Yeah, I'm going to give a lot.
Yeah.
I never want to force something that isn't there. But one thing I'm quite proud of is I did win the Stan Rogers Legacy Award from the Chilliwack Chamber of Commerce in 2017, and it's a Lifetime Achievement Award for giving back to the community, and I think only 4 or 5 people have ever won it, and I was 46 when that was awarded to me. So that's something I'm really quite proud of, because really this accords with my life plan to give back. But in terms of I do enjoy leadership. It's something I've studied a lot, and it's something that I'm quite passionate about, and I always want to find ways to be a better leader. And so it's something that has been recognized, and I'm actually president of Chilliwack Community Services again for a second term right now. And we have the Paramount project on Yale Road we're just finishing up, which is I think almost $20 million project with BC Housing, and 56 units for seniors and 8 units for youth. And super proud of some of the things I've been able to accomplish, and had a great group of people around me to help with that.
UBC.
Yeah. So I grew up in Chilliwack, and then all of a sudden went to Vancouver, which was like culture shock for me. Totally different in terms of I was married young, and so when I went to law school, I was 26. I started, and there was no one married in the whole law school except for a few people. And so, that was quite different. But lived in Kitsilano and had a great time there. Absolutely loved law school, mainly for the social aspect. I found the study of law a bit boring, but the social aspect was I was the captain of the hockey team, and
you're a Thunderbird captain.
Well,
right?
not the we had intramurals, but we played we played at a very high level there. It was the highest level of the intramurals, so a lot of junior hockey players, former junior hockey players, and things like that. But that was very enjoyable, and made some really good friends in law school. And then worked in Vancouver for 4 years, got a job articling at one of the top firms in Vancouver, and didn't think I was going to come back to Chilliwack, but then we had a kid, and then that kind of changed everything. So my daughter Portia was born in 2004, and moved back in 2005.
Okay.
So I really like that name, Portia.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I do. I'm a big Sing 2 guy. And that's my little girl's favorite character. I like that name.
The other highlight of law school was they have a great exchange program. And so I went to Brisbane, Australia for my last semester of law school, and that was fantastic. So I loved Australia, and I'd never really traveled, having grown up with not a lot. And so that was my first big trip, and stopped in Thailand as well, and was gone for 6 months and had an absolute blast.
Wow. Nice. Were you tempted to stay?
No. I had the
thought
beaches,
about that for a second.
I had a job there back here, and all my friends and family are here, so it's a long ways away. But it's absolutely gorgeous there, and the people are great.
Nice. Well, you ready, buddy? Should we do the
10 in 10-ish?
Yes.
Okay, so this is going to be 10, a series of 10 questions. I'm going to present it as rapid fire, but with lots of elaboration.
Okay.
That's why we call it the ish, 10 in 10-ish.
Yeah.
Luke Zacharias here on Bizwack 10 in 10-ish. We're started off with favorite restaurant in Chilliwack.
I'm going to have to go with 2. One of my top clients and good friends is Raffaello, and he owns Frankie's and Earl's in the bistro. And so probably the restaurant bar I like the most is Frankie's. They've got a great bar, and I go there a fair bit. I love Bravo Restaurant as well.
Okay.
It's also one of my favorites, so go there a lot. So those are the 2.
Frankie's.
I finally met, what's his name, Raffaello?
Yeah, Raphael.
Yeah, Raphael last week, and told him that on the podcast, everybody answers Frankie's as their favorite.
Yeah, we got to get him on.
Yeah.
I know Raph. Yeah.
He looked scared, though, when I asked him.
So Raph was my first client, 7 a.m. I opened my new firm, and I get a phone call. I'm like, who's this? And it's Raph. And he said, I'm moving all my litigation over to you. So he always holds a special place in my heart.
Nice.
That's awesome. If you weren't the owner of Zacharias Vickers and McCann, what would you be doing in Chilliwack?
I've always loved politics. It's something I'd considered, even like going through university, something I was quite passionate about, and always, even as going to law school, considered as an option. I have found a real passion for business, though, and I love running businesses. And so I also own some Wendy's restaurants as a side business. So that's another thing I'd be doing, is probably being an entrepreneur.
Is it the Chilliwack Wendy's?
No, there are 2 up north, northern BC. One is Fort St. John, and one is Dawson Creek. And we just signed a deal to build 5 more in Montreal. So
wow.
So that's been an interesting journey.
I absolutely adore Wendy's.
Yeah,
Junior bacon cheeseburgers after my boys coming home from hockey.
Yeah.
Is what we do.
Yeah.
Junior JBCs.
Nice.
Yeah. One word to describe your leadership style.
Passionate.
There you go.
I get pretty fired up about things.
Yeah, trust me. We can see the passion here. Yeah. It's coming this way too. I love it. Let's dive it into who inspires you.
I had this incredible letter sent to me a couple weeks ago by a former lawyer who worked with me and left to go back to Toronto and worked at a really large firm. And he sent this letter talking about how I'd mentored him and been such a leadership figure in his life. And he had just read the biography of Winston Churchill, and he compared me to Winston Churchill, which was immensely flattering, But he sent me a little statue of Winston Churchill and the scotch he drank, and like this whole care package with those, and all these quotes from Winston Churchill that he said I exhibited in my life. So that was a huge honor. So Winston Churchill is a huge hero in my life, and Martin Luther King Jr. is another one. Just loved how he stood up for the small guy. And Winston Churchill, I heard this story recently, which I didn't know. I have a history degree from one of my degrees, and so you hear about Chamberlain. He appeased Hitler, right? And he's generally reviled in history now. Everyone's like, he was terrible. And I didn't know this part. When he came back from meeting with Hitler and allowing him to go into Austria, there were standing ovations at the airport. There was a standing ovation in Parliament by every parliamentarian except for 4. So Winston Churchill and his 3 buddies. And he just had a vision for what was going to happen, and he knew, and he had that foresight and that strength of leadership and conviction to stand up when everyone else was going the other way. And but actually be right about it. People can stand on principles all day long and be completely wrong or dumb about it. It's when it really matters, and that really, really mattered, and he knew the right path, and I have a huge level of admiration for that.
Me too. Now,
yeah, that was good. That was up there, and I like that one. Number 5. This is good. Jumping into your personal life a little bit. What's the best way you spend your free time?
So kids are in university now, but like skied with them all growing up. So kind of January to March, just every single weekend, it was up to the ski hill with the kids, and absolutely love that. I'm a 10 out of 10 extrovert, so I love people. I have a big social network. I have an amazing friend group, like absolutely incredible, that I really love. So yeah, those would be, I've always enjoyed sports. I've played so many different sports. I still work out. I used to be a power lifter, and I played hockey. I've done almost every water sport. So I love being active. I love traveling. It's just, I'm a doer and I love to go. And so I'm rarely sitting still.
That's great. Any international skiing that comes to mind?
Yeah. I just left. I just got back from, I was in the Swiss Alps and the Italian Dolomites. And so absolutely incredible, like beautiful, beautiful areas. Absolutely stunning. So yeah.
We're not getting the snow this year.
No, we're not. I was up at Silver Star and they had enough snow to ski. So yeah, but yeah, not around here locally.
If you're making dinner, what's your go-to?
I'm not.
Can't say skip the dishes.
I'm better at making breakfast.
Okay. Well, yeah. What do you go and do for breakfast?
Scrambled eggs, bacon. I love eggs. Eggs are one of my favorite foods. Yeah. So I can make eggs in many different ways quite well. I'm not. I would love to become a good chef. I just have not had the time. So maybe that's a future goal.
I'm starting to get into it now.
Yeah. What about you missed one? No, I know. I'm not. I didn't panic. Okay, I gotta keep it straight around here. I don't want any objections here. All right. Who's your favorite music artist?
That's a good one. I've been more of an idea person. I've never, I'll listen to music. I love rock music. I like rap a lot. AC/DC is, I've seen them twice in live and fourth row once, 23rd row another time. I love AC/DC. So yeah, and they have so much music that I love. But
what about rap? Are you going old school?
I just watched 8 Mile, Eminem. I really like Eminem a lot. Yeah. There's lots of variety rap that I would really enjoy. He gets a bit angry at points too. So I'm not a super angry guy.
You put that on when you really want to get jacked up.
But that's actually a good story. We have a lawyer that I do a lot of trials with. We started this tradition, or I started actually years ago, to have a trial song. So when we're driving to the courthouse, many songs we've tried, but it's Lose Yourself by Eminem is the best trial song. It's you got one chance, you got one opportunity, and that's a great song. I absolutely love that song.
Favorite setting of nature in Chilliwack?
Oh man, so this is growing up here. I leave Chilliwack and everyone says, Chilliwack smells like manure, and I always thought Chilliwack is one of the most beautiful places in the world. I love how close the mountains are. I love the lakes, the rivers. Lindeman Lake. I've done a lot of hiking in the Chilliwack River Valley. I've been up Shem multiple times. That's absolutely incredible. There's too many to name. Right. Cultus Lake. Absolutely, I grew up going there. Harrison Lake. There's just so many amazing places here. I love living here.
I'm from Burnaby. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Everything that was here.
I think people have discovered Chilliwack now.
Yeah.
Though.
I know.
It's growing so fast.
Yeah.
That's the reason why they call it the valley. Those mountains are just all around us.
Yeah.
Where do you do your food shopping?
Superstore, Save-On.
Yep.
Yeah.
Frankie's.
Yeah, Frankie's. You're right.
Yeah.
I do a lot of eating at Frankie's.
This is the finale here, and one piece of advice, saying or expression that you want everyone to remember.
Yeah, I think that having meaning in life is incredibly important, and what gives you meaning, because finding your meaning in life is what's going to create happiness for you. People are all about happiness. Happiness doesn't come from hedonism. It doesn't come from going on a vacation. You get a bit of happiness from going on a vacation, but what true fulfillment and joy comes from is having a purpose and fulfilling that purpose. Right. And I'm really clear on what my purpose is. And there's multiple aspects of that, but I believe very deeply in that. And as a society, we have this pursuit of happiness that people are really engaged in. And I think a lot of times it gets missed because people aren't thinking about meaning and purpose. They're thinking about what makes me feel good in the moment. And it's not what makes you feel good in the very long term. And that to me is really critical to live a good life, which is what I want to do.
Right on.
That's going on our website.
Yeah, I like that. Can I add? I gotta add. I said I was gonna.
Can we get your autograph?
Yeah. And maybe one day HOF at the end of the autograph. They said there's only 6 in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, exactly.
Where'd you get your suit? Your suit is super sweet.
Ronald Allen is a tailor now. Dennis is the guy I deal with there.
Right.
He owns it now. Ronald Allen is long past, but great store. Dennis is amazing. Fantastic guy.
I'm good. I had to find out.
No, he's well dressed.
Oh yeah.
Okay, well, this has been BizWack. I've been Hugh Hamilton. He's been Ty Garrah. Luke,
Thanks guys.
very much for coming on.
A blast.
Thank you so much.